This comment was from my post yesterday, and it has stuck with me all night long. I'm really struggling with what we're doing to Canada and what we've done to Canada and how we've irreparably harmed our relationship with them. For the record, this person went on to say that they know it's not all Americans, but isn't that very much like American women saying it's not all men? I'm also very, very offended by everything that's going on because I was raised evangelical. I am now an ex-evangelical. I still believe in Christ, but I believe in the biblical Christ, not the American Christ that the evangelical church made up. And you know, it's interesting to me. I was thinking this morning that there's several phrases that keep going through my mind, like when Ben Franklin said, "We've given them a republic if they can keep it." We fucked up after 250 years on that, didn't we? But also when Christ said, "You've heard it said, hate your enemies and love your friends, but I tell you to love your enemies." The problem is, back then, 2,000 years ago, in a pagan place, no one would have conceived of someone shitting on their friends like America's doing. That wasn't heard of. He said to love your enemies because he was trying to turn the world upside down. He didn't think he'd have to say love your friends, because at no time and no place have friends ever been treated like this. We have a special relationship with the UK, that's true, but no more special than Canada. And it's easy to take them for granted because they're our next door neighbor and they are always there for us. They are there for us every time we want to pick a fight with somebody. They're there every time we go into war. They're there when the Iranian hostages needed to be released. Canada worked around the clock. I've read the history books. I've seen the movies. They did. During 9/11, I remember thinking, because I was in my early 20s, like, how does Canada know it's safe for them to accept flights when we've shut down our airspace? They didn't. They figured they weren't the target, but they didn't know. And I wasn't one of those stranded overseas or in Canada that day, but I think it would have been more comforting to be stranded in Canada, our closest neighbor, knowing if I had to, I could get a car and drive home, or I could walk home, or I could hitchhike home, than to be overseas. Though I do appreciate our friends overseas that took care of Americans while they couldn't come home during all of that. My point is this: if you voted for Trump, you're not a Christ follower, at least not the biblical Christ, because that's like the most basic thing he said. He said the greatest commandment, the two greatest commandments, were to love God and love each other. And you have failed utterly. And the other thing I'll say is this: if maggots will treat Canada this way, how will they treat you, American who lives next door? Most of us that didn't vote for this have already cut off ties as much as possible.